So let me just reintroduce myself. My name's Sunyana. I'm the founder of Energetics Every Day. My background is in holistic therapies. I was one for 25 years before I decided to focus on energetics. And in my background, I'm a qualified reflexologist, I'm a Usui Reiki master, a free mind hypnotherapist, and a Bowen technique practitioner. Hi, Belinda. So it was through that work that I began to understand about energy flow, and I began to understand how important it was to follow energy. And then my other obsession through those 25 years was helping to empower people so that they could actually find their own way through and their own solutions through and not depend on an external person. And what that led to about a year before the pandemic was me meeting my higher self, Athalia, who helps me on all these lives. And it led me to creating my deck, the truth of you, connecting to the truth of you. And it's actually formed the basis of my business, this relationship with Athalia. And it's something that I encourage all of you to develop and make so that it's so automatic for you to turn to your higher self for help before you go external, before you ask anyone else. When you trust that relationship with your higher self, honestly, life becomes so much easier. I'm not saying that there aren't challenges, because we're physical humans and there will always be things that we need to understand, meet, change about ourselves, because that's the human experience. But with your higher self's help, it can be faster, smoother, and you have the comfort of knowing that she or he is right by you. So let's crack on to this evening's topic. Hi, Belinda, how are you? Is it, yes, Monica, I have you on my list to give you a card tonight. So yeah, enjoy. Is it warm with you, Belinda? Because here it is blooming cold and wet, and our heating clicked back on last night. Can you believe it? In July. Outrageous behaviour, honestly. We've had more rain in the southeast. I think we've had 119% of the rain expected over the weekend. That was yesterday's stats on the weather. Ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, so let's get on to tonight's topic, which is it's all about love, right? Why would I say that? We have, as physical humans, we experience life in a very linear way, and we experience life in a real challenge. It can feel like a real challenge, and it can feel, sometimes you think, is it worth it? Why do I keep having to face challenges? And this conversation, by the way, came about because yesterday I was in the company of some amazing other energetic practitioners. My friend Emily, Sue from the Garforth Peace Project, and Kerry, who are all members of this group as well. Oh, yes. Okay, big day for you, Belinda. I can see that. Yeah, sending you all loads of love. So, this conversation tonight came from me talking to them and asking for them to help me get some insight into why people experience burnout and mental fatigue, and why why is it so hard sometimes, and the when you have mental fatigue or burnout and your hormones are all over the place and your cortisol and adrenal glands are all over the place, why does it affect your body weight, and how does it affect your body? Hi, Mickey. So that's how this tonight's conversation came about. And when we were receiving about that topic of what happens when we have burnout, mental fatigue, and our adrenal and cortisol balance is out of control, what happened was I received that in that moment where you feel that burnout, in that moment that you feel, I don't know what to do, in that moment where you feel really, really alone, that is when you are actively and likely unconsciously disconnecting from God's love. And this caught me by surprise a little bit, because I've done a lot of work to repair my relationship with God. And I was a bit surprised to find that this was still kind of lurking in the background. But in that understanding, I began to realize how not only God's love, but love in general, the love we show ourselves, sometimes we disconnect from it because we want to push forward. We don't want to flow forward, we want to push forward. Our heads get in the way and we feel like we're not keeping up, and I say this as two separate things. We're not keeping up, or we're falling behind, because they're slightly different things. Or we're not achieving enough, or we're not bringing enough kudos to our family so that they can tell other people and bask in reflected glory. So there's these things that happen. And then there are the more challenging things that many of us in the group have experienced as you grow up. So there'll be people who've been abandoned, who've been abused in some shape or form, maybe divorced, maybe remarried but unhappily, or with an partner and they're unhappy with their relationships. Maybe work is not where you want it to be. Maybe your business, if you're self-employed, is not where you want it to be. And on the conscious side of things, you might be feeling, right, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to just do what needs to be done, and I'm going to work my way out of this. But unconsciously, what you're feeling is alone and abandoned and desperate and sad. And because we keep pushing, and this is not a criticism, this is human nature. I've certainly done it, and I've experienced burnout. My recent trip definitely left me with a mental fatigue that's taken me almost 5 weeks to sort of work my way through. When we are feeling that level of, I need to just get through this, hi Anne, what happens is that feeling of I'm alone and there's no one here to help me gets accentuated. And in that accentuation, we distance ourselves even more from God's love. Now, the thing about God's love, and this is not in a religious context, okay? So whatever your religious beliefs, marvelous, keep with them, right? But what I'm talking about is your personal relationship with God. And I'm talking about the love that is flowing to you all the time. Now, if you have had a challenging upbringing, or you have a challenging decade, or 20s, 30s, 40s, I don't really care when the period was or what the problem was, many people, including myself, will have a feeling of anger towards God. And we will want to blame God, and we will want to say, it's your fault that I feel so bad. But you know what? Through all of our angst, through all of our pain, God is still continuously flowing love to us. The difference is that we've forgotten that connection as human beings, and we have also developed habitual patterns of dealing with the physical and mental pain and exhaustion that we're going through. Now, there's nothing wrong per se with those patterns, except they keep you blocked off from God's love. So the question is, how can you feel God's love when it feels like everything is going to pieces? Like everything is not working out for you. When it feels like that ex-partner just cannot sink any lower, or there's just no money coming in the bank and you don't know where to turn to, or you're waiting for a manifestation that just isn't coming. It can be really easy for you to go into your head and leave your hot air and go into your head and be like, right, I've got to fix this. Okay. So the question arises, how can you keep your balance, keep connected to God, and keep allowing that flow to God? So these are the steps that I've used and I still use, but I'm going to share them with you. And if you have any questions, let me know. And I'm really happy to talk on this topic with you. Okay. So the first thing is actually acknowledging that you might be angry with God. And I can say, for one, I was in huge denial about this. I really, really didn't think I was angry with God. I felt like he was over there, I was here, I didn't bother him, he didn't bother me, all was good. But in that feeling of he's over there and I'm over here and we don't bother each other, there is a kind of, I'm imposing a block on him. I'm saying, you can stay over there, but I'm not going to let you interfere in my life anymore. And when I did my releasing process and I looked at the limiting beliefs I had, one of them I had was that God let me down. And that if he really was a loving God, why would he let me go through so much trauma that I did as I grew up and, over the years? Why would he do that to me? And when I posed that question to God, and this is step 2, so you've acknowledged your anger, your dismay, your disappointment, your feelings of betrayal with God, all of those things, you've acknowledged them consciously, and you might need to allow them to surface, okay, as an actual physical sensation. Number 2 is to start the conversation with God and say, okay, and this is different to a rant, okay? Many of us might rant at God or rant at our higher selves and shout and scream, but actually what I'm talking about is a proper conversation. So you would go into the chamber of God and you would say to God, right, I consciously acknowledge that I'm really angry with you. I consciously acknowledge that I feel like you have not been pulling your weight and you have let me down. And then you wait for his response. And I promise you that if you do this, the response you get will be the most loving, humorous response you can imagine. God has such a beautiful sense of humor and he is constantly flowing his love to us. But it's our challenge is, how do we accept it, right? How can we trust him again if life has been so difficult? Well, you trust him by allowing yourself to feel the flows of that love. So that's step 3. Allow yourself to feel the flows of that love. So how can you feel it? So you can feel it in lots of different ways. One could be that you go into a meditation, you go to the chamber of God with your higher self, and then you say to God, right, could you just flow some love to me and help me feel better? So that's one way. And you'll feel it. It's like to me, it's like a never ending wave of feeling, of loving feeling coming towards me. Another way might be you ask God to start accompanying you through your day. So for many of you, you'll have heard me who've listened to this, you'll have heard me say on a Tuesday night, ask your higher self to come and spend the day with you and go around with you and do everything with you. Well, in the same way, you can ask God to come and join you and be with you while you spend your day. What happens is you get familiar with his energy, so you'll notice it really easily when he's with you. But also, you'll have a feeling of, I'm not alone in this anymore. There's someone with me. So your higher self and God accompanying you through your day. What a magic combo. And another way that you can allow God's love in is to actually sort of have a conversation. So I'll give you an example. When we moved to this house 3 years ago, we do a blessing in the Hindu tradition. We do a blessing of your house and we do offerings. And I said to my mum, do you know, I think I'm going to offer some chocolate. Every member of my household loves chocolate. Let's offer some chocolate to God. We'll offer the usual fruits and nuts, etc., but we'll offer some chocolate as well. So I went to my local Asda and I stood in the chocolate aisle and I said to God, right, God, we're going to ask you to bless our house and bless everyone in it, but I want to offer you chocolate. And I'd like you to tell me what chocolate you would like. And there was this beautiful, almost like a burst of laughter that kind of came flowing at me. Peals of humor that felt like rumbles. Imagine you could hear rumbles of thunder in your ears. And he just said, I love whatever you love. So just buy those. That will be enough. And in that sentence of I love whatever you love, it kind of encapsulates really easily what God's view is about loving us is. He loves you because he loves you. Hi, Jenny. He loves you because you are you. You don't need to change for him, and you don't need to be any different for him. So that's one part of tonight's topic. Okay. So if you have any questions about God, any resistances, let me have them and we'll see what answers we get for you. But the second part of how to always be loving to yourself, and this is connected to the first part, by the way, is when you start practicing the principle of love for me first. So love for me first is one of the sort of mainstay principles of Evolve You Living. Okay. And you're welcome, Mickey. Evolve You Live. So in Love for Me First, the idea is that you do not act in a way that is contrary to loving for you first. And some people find that really hard because they say, oh, that's selfish, or, you should put other people's first. And that's conditioning that we've all brought up with, right? Especially if you're a woman. This is no disrespect to the men in the group, but especially if you're a woman, you will have been brought up to put other people first, and you will have been brought up to put yourself last, right? Two slightly same thing, but slightly different focuses. But in Love for You First, when you start practicing it, you develop really great boundaries. You develop really great ways of communicating your boundaries. And you also, hello, Helen, you also get to become really good at understanding how your energy flows and when you should be out there in the world and when you should pull back and be having time to yourself at home, or in whatever way suits you. So time to yourself could be, a one-on-one conversation with someone who's really uplifting and really lovely to you. Time to yourself could be literally time to yourself enjoying a hobby. Time to yourself could be going to watch a band that you love, or taking yourself on a date to the cinema. It doesn't really matter what time to yourself is. The important part of time to yourself is that it helps you to feel better. It helps you to feel more balanced, and it helps generate high vibration. So when you are experiencing, let's say you want to change job. I know there's a few members in here who would like to change jobs, and it may not be happening for you for whatever reason. It may not be, like, you get rejected at an interview, maybe you don't even get past the recruiter. You might not be seeing jobs you want. I can give you an example. So a while ago, probably about a year ago, I began thinking, because it's taking a while for this business to grow and to give me an income. I was thinking, do you know what? I might go and do some coaching for an organization and, help them with some wellness coaching. It's something I can do. I got my CV sorted and professionally redone, put it on LinkedIn. Crickets, not a thing. And all the jobs LinkedIn was sending me just really weren't suitable. I think maybe 2 in a year that I thought were probably suitable. Now, love for me, if I wasn't practicing love for me first, it would really be easy for me to go into that frustrated mindset of, oh, for goodness sakes, why is this not happening for me? But I know better. And so when I felt into the energy of the flow of towards a wellness coach, and also the flows of love for me first, I could clearly feel that that is not where love for me flows, right? In my head, it's a job I can do. And in my head, I can do it well and I can offer a good service. But the reality is that if I did that job, it would not be to my highest good and it would not be to my most benefit. In other words, it would not be love for me first. So you want to really, when you're noticing those frustrating things that are happening to you, when things are challenging, when things are not working for you, you have to start asking, what is the simplest and easiest thing I can do so I can feel better and raise your vibration? What is the simplest and easiest step I can take in order to resolve this situation if you're in a situation with other people? Or what is the simplest, easiest step I can take to further me on my goals, to getting a new job, to moving home, to meeting someone, whatever it is that you want to do, right? And then the other thing is, what is the simplest and easiest thing for me? Bearing in mind, I'm trying to practice love for me first. Are my goals that I'm setting, are they love for me first? Now, you could put that at the beginning if you wanted, but if you're certain of your goals, then just it's as a refresher for you, okay? Now, how does this fit in with God, right? I've just talked about God is love and he's flowing his love to you all the time, but it's our problem is receiving it. When you are practicing love for me first and you're practicing it in a really authentic way, so you don't feel guilty about putting your needs first, you don't feel guilty about saying no to someone, because it is not love for you first to meet up with them, or it's not love for you first to take on that extra bit of work at work. When you start practicing that authentically, you are actually also allowing God's love to flow in for you. Because by practicing love for me first, your vibration is rising. In other words, you're treating yourself, hey Gwen, lovely. You're treating yourself as that valuable, unique person that God sees you as, right? When you practice love for me first, you are saying, I am worthy of a good life. And the law of attraction and the divine laws can start responding to that worthiness. And all of those laws are based in love. So if you can detach yourself from the problem and go instead, so take your focus away from what is not working to what is a simple and easy step I can take to allow myself to feel better. What is a simple and easy step I can take to get me one step closer to my goals? If you can do that instead of, yeah, sure, Rachel, if you can do that instead of being really stuck in your problem, you're allowing God's love to flow to you. Now, I know as I say this, I can literally feel coming back at me that some of you don't feel worthy of God's love. And I'm here to tell you, every single one of you, it does not matter how you have lived your life to date or how you intend living it in the future, God still loves you, right? God is a bit like your soul energy. There's no judgment here. They unconditionally love you. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be divinely perfect even, or divine in your behavior or your nature. No, you're here to be a physical human. So strive to be the best version of the physical human you can be, employing love for you first as a guiding principle, and then saying, okay, to God, I'm ready to have that conversation with you. And you might, I mean, I said to God in my conversation, because I am quite disrespectful and, I get quite worked up. I did say to God, I think you've been quite a douchebag to me over the years. And he, his energy is big enough to take it, but he was like, no, I haven't been a douchebag. That's just your perception from a human perspective. In fact, I have been flowing love to you all the time. I have never, ever stopped flowing love to you. You forgot we had a connection and you forgot that you could receive from me. And just as an aside, for those of you who practice religion, you may feel that you can only receive God's love through a priest or through an intermediary. I don't believe that, and that's not my experience with God. My experience with God is he will flow that energy to you really easily. Hello, Jennifer. And he will help you to feel safe. He will help you to feel good, and he will help you to take the next steps if you let him. Okay. So for those of you joining me later, I've just been talking about why the answer is always love. And the first bit was just talking about God. The second bit is talking about the principle of love for you first. It's quite a challenging topic to kind of talk in such a small period of time. So if any of you have any follow-up questions on this, please message me, and we can have a conversation, and hopefully I can help you gain more understanding. Yeah, that's an interesting point, that you feel you're God creator. I don't feel that way, Rushni. I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. That is, your feeling is completely valid to you. I feel like I'm an extension of God's energy in lots of ways, because we stem, God created us. But I don't feel like I am God. I feel like God has a separate energy and entity and awareness to me. My soul energy is separate to his. But if that's how you feel, Roshni, marvelous, right? Like, that's your truth. Great, go for it, right? Use that as a basis to then kind of go back to God and say, right, this is how I feel about you. What do you reckon? Have a conversation with him about it, right? Have a conversation and say, things are going really well in my new project, my new business I'm going. Like, is there anything else you want me to add into it? What else do you want me to do? And I'll be honest, right? God is not a subject that I would normally talk about. But yesterday's conversation with Emily and Sue and Kerry really kind of made me aware of how sometimes in the middle of the worst possible situations we're in, we forget that we have this connection to God, and we have the ability to receive this love if only we would allow it. And in that allowing, we feel better. So I did say to my team and to God last night, so what is this one thing that people can do when they're really struggling? And the answer I got was breathe, right? So, when things feel like they're really coming in on you, and you're feeling like, I just need something to change. I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. I feel like I've done everything I should have. I'm feeling like I'm at my wit's end. That feeling of just despair and awfulness that you can experience when things are not going to plan, when you desperately want something to go to plan. It's in that moment of, I don't know what to do, that you need to pause and breathe and literally put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Because in that breathing, what you are doing is pausing your brain, but you are also saying and giving yourself time to speak to your higher self and to God and say, help me. Remember, we have free will. So they might be standing on the sidelines waiting, desperate to help you. But unless you say, help me, they can't interfere. So you want to, in that breath, in that moment of, you might need to repeat this a couple of times to quieten the brain and to sort of just begin to settle your physical response to the stress you're under. But in that moment of breathing, say, help me. What is the simplest thing I can do? What is the easiest step I can take? Yeah. Oh, that's perfect, Mickey, right? That's the one. Do you know, you're not the only one. Okay. I mean, part of the reason I had this conversation yesterday was because I was feeling quite desperate about how mentally burnt out I was feeling and how exhausted I've been since I got back from India. And it's been really impacting me in a way that I hadn't expected. And the grief I was feeling, like, it felt like I was back 13 years ago with the grief around my dad's death. It was a lot of emotion to deal with, and being physically unwell as a result really knocked me for six, right? But when I had this conversation yesterday, I was like, oh yeah, Why am I not asking for help? Why am I trying to do this on my own? And the answer came back from God with lots of love and laughter, which is, you're a physical human and you forget. And you sometimes just need us to poke you to remind you we're still here. And so I want you to try and apply this perspective of, we're here to help you and we're going to poke you when you are sometimes going through those repetitive cycles where you keep getting stressed about the same things, whether it's be money, whether it's be a job, whether it be a relationship, whether it be, should I have a child, whether it be, should I start a new business, whatever that thing is. I want you to just kind of go, oh yeah, I forgot to ask for help. Help me. Because they are waiting. God is waiting. Your higher self is waiting. Your entire non-physical team are waiting for you. And yeah, it is, isn't it? It's ridiculous how much we feel like we have to do on our own. And do you know what? Since last Friday, when something I did another sort of Zoom call with some other friends, and we did some work on hormone balance, and then the conversation yesterday. Do you know what? I felt the best I felt since I came back from India. I'm still not 100%, but I'm probably at 95%. And I jumped from about 70% to 95% as of yesterday morning's conversation. That's how quickly you can feel better. And I know, because I've become aware of not allowing God in, or not allowing him to help me as much as he could, I know now that I'm going to be really talking to him and kind of going, okay, what can we do? What's the next step? How do I feel better? How do I feel back to myself? How do I feel like I can move forward from what's happened? And my energy is no longer in the past, but my physical body is struggling to let go. So it's like, what is the step I need to take? And God will show me. Right? I have no doubt about it. Either my higher self, Athalia, will tell me, or God will show me, or maybe they'll both show me hand in hand, because they work together. They are separate, but they don't work separately all the time. Sometimes they come together. When our soul contracts were being designed, your higher self didn't just randomly go, right, I need a soul, thanks very much. No, your soul went to God and had a long conversation that went on for years, maybe eons, while they worked out, why do you need a soul? What is the purpose of that soul? How will the greater collective evolve because of this soul's physical experience? Why do you want to send it to Earth and not to maybe another multi-universe where you could live a non-physical life? So what is it about Earth that you want? What is it that you want to experience? And so your higher self knows God well, and God knows them well. So remember that. They're a great duo to really ask for help. Okay? So, my lovelies, I'm going to love you and leave you. We've been on for quite a while now. Probably tired of the sound of my voice. But if you have any follow-up questions about the subject of God, allowing God into your life, about love for me first, please do contact me. I can talk about this some more in the week if we need to. Just checking the messages. Thank you, Kerry. I appreciate you too, my love. And just come back to me if you have any questions. Otherwise, I will see you next Tuesday, as usual, for our next topic. No idea what it is because I haven't been told yet by my team. That's an exercise in trust, I can tell you. But I will be back next week, as usual, to talk to you and read cards. Take care, all, and big hugs to you all.